Hi everybody, it's Thursday. Today I'm just north of Leavenworth, Washington on a forested ridge. No name that I'm aware of. I'm with Mike Eddy, Erin Donaghy from Purdue University, as well as Ralph Haugerud, who you see right there. And we're parked down in the trees and we're walking up along this ridge. It's Chumstick Formation, mostly arcosic sandstones, but there's been a tip that there's a very thick ash bed up here that we're having a hard time finding. Mike is following some coordinates that he noted in a scientific paper decades ago. And as the hunt for that outcrop continues, it's this kind of orienteering or navigating that needs to be done to find a good spot to break off a sample. I'm curious what these tuffs look like. I talked about the tuffs all spring within the Chumstick. I don't have a good sense of if they're solid bedrock or chalky white ash that almost looks like stuff that fell out of the sky, or a little of both. Oh my God, I think I see some geologists in the clearing. They seem to know what they're doing.
You kind of need to know what the legend is on it. Yeah.
Have you been to this spot, Erin?
I have not.
Okay, all right, good. Thank you.
Mike has those coordinates.
Okay.
He got up here back when we were both working in the basin, so probably around 2013 or 14, he was able to get up here. He used the student species from the 80s, McClincy.
Okay.
He has really detailed maps of where all the tuffs in the Chumstick Basin are throughout the entire northern and southern part of the basin. And so we both have used those maps for our field work to chase down these tuffs, and they've been amazing resources. But these two tuffs are the Soonich tuffs, and they are in the uppermost part of the Clark Canyon member in the Chumstick Formation. And so we are trying to find them. We think we have a good idea of where they might be based on some of the recon work Mike did. And so if we can get a sample of them, we can take them back and date them using the chemical abrasion ID TIMS and get a really precise age for that uppermost part of the Clark Canyon member.
You would assume there's some zircons in this tuff like there were the others?
Yes, I hope so.
Okay.
I have never seen these tuffs, so
Right.
This is new for me as well. I did not have access to the road we used to get up here, so a lot of these central areas in the basin would hike in using the National Forest land from either side along the Leavenworth Fault, or you could get some access along Clark Canyon in the central part of the basin. But I tried to find these tuffs, and I hiked in all the way from the highway along the river and got out here, and we couldn't find them. So,
oh gosh, I can see why.
I have most of my master's thesis was kind of navigating this type of terrain, off trail, and then measuring sections and doing lithofacies mapping as we went.
The lower one is a flaggy tuffaceous sandstone. Upper tuff bed, which I think is the top of this hill, is 9 meters thick where it crosses the ridge.
9 meters?
Yeah, that seems excessive. It overlies a medium-grained arkose. The lower half of the tuff is tuffaceous clast-rich sandstone. The upper one half is generally clast-supported tuffaceous conglomerate. The tuff component is a white clay matrix. Many clasts appear to consist of flow-banded rhyolite. Other clasts include volcanic porphyry and gneiss, up to 20 centimeters in diameter.
Sounds kind of like what we're standing on.
Yeah.
Flow-banded rhyolite within the tuff bed?
Yeah, they must be
Class of it.
cobbles. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
So it must have erupted and then been reworked by a stream.
Oh, got it.
Well, then
Thank you. Thank you, Ralph. Oh my God, yes sir. Flow-banded rhyolite. Origin unknown.
I can smell the top.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, now I remember why I did not work on these. I think we're at the point where it might be worth the effort to get a date on
Well,
Yeah.
now that I don't have to do it.
now I get to do it. It's come full circle.
I was with the 351 class. In other words, that's the ridge above the Leavenworth ski hill, which is right down over that ridge. So we're to the next forested ridge to the north. Still in the Chumstick, of course, but looking for a tuff bed, Soonich, a Soonich tuff or two that apparently is 9 meters thick, so it shouldn't be that hard to find, but the exposures are not frequent, and that's why we're busting up to the top of this ridge.
But this sure looks like a sandstone.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, the stuff we were walking through looked tuffaceous, so maybe it's just on the other side of us and not cropping out.
But this is why it was such a problem for Mike and I to find it back when we worked out here. That this very much is a piece of sandstone.
So just even approaching an outcrop with all your experience here, the tuff beds are rarely this resistant, or they sometimes are.
Or most of the time they are.
They are.
This resistant. 'Cause they've,
Okay.
and they hold up a lot of the ridges, and that's why they are great marker beds throughout the Chumstick Basin.
I see.
So they're really churty
Yeah.
and silicified, and that's why they kind of hold up these ridges. But this, whereas a lot of times the other tuffs, when you break them open, they are really churty tuffs. This kind of looks like, when I break it open, sandstone.
So were you not sure if this was sandstone or tuff until you broke it open? Are they that similar in appearance outcrop-wise?
Sometimes they can be. A lot of them get this black kind of varnish on them.
Okay.
So it can be tricky. A lot of the times they have this kind of black look, but
I see.
breaking this open, and it clearly looks like a sandstone to me, and I think this was a lot of the difficulty Mike and I had trying to find it so we can come to the locations on the map, but we haven't been fully convinced that it's a tuff.
Yeah.
It could be a tuffaceous sandstone for sure, but if we have detritus mixed in to the sandstone or the tuff bed, then it would be hard to get those really precise ages because we have detrital grains mixed in instead of just the igneous grains that are gonna record that crystallization age of the tuff. The tuffs in the Clark Canyon sequence, when you break them open or when you see them in the road cut along the logging road, they are bright white. They are very bright white. And the Eagle Creek tuff even has a really pretty greenish blue color. So they are really bright. And a lot of them, just from satellite images, you can see them using the satellite images holding up ridges, or so they serve as really great markers.
Sure.
But The other tuff we went to this morning, the Mission Tuff down by Mission Ridge, also kind of had this darker mottled appearance, but when you broke it open, it was still, you know, oh yes, this is the tuff. We can see the pumice pieces, and this looks very fluvial, detrital sandstone to me. Heading to the Olympic Peninsula for this summer's work.
So you were there a little bit last year, and what are you hoping to do this year that's different than last year on the peninsula?
Last year we kind of went out for a little bit of recon, drove the roads, tried to see where we could find rocks, took note of any obstacles we were going to overcome, and a lot of that is getting access to land. So it's been a lot of logistics on the front end of this field season, working with different logging companies, but they've all been very great and want to help me with my research. So it's kind of this dance to get keys to different gates so that we can get on their land and then hopefully utilize some of those logging roads or some of the areas that they've recently logged to find some more rock exposure, because out on the peninsula it is very forested and hard to find any exposure. So now that we have a lot more time than just doing a little bit of recon, the plan will be to document and characterize more of the lithofacies, measure some stratigraphic sections. Ideally, if we can find some paleocurrent indicators, get some measurements of those. And we're working in what's known as the peripheral rocks of the Olympic Peninsula. So they're the Cenozoic Eocene to Miocene section that was deposited on top of the Silesia basalts. So we're looking to characterize that stratigraphic section, that sedimentary sequence, because it should record the first basin deposits following Silesia's collision to the continental margin.
Probably what we do if we had a candidate is go to a laser ablation system and sort of screen and then take the youngest population and just see if anything is coherent in terms of age and geochemistry.
Well, no?
I mean, this is where everyone, including myself, told us that the tuff would be. It was 8 years ago, though.
Okay.
It'd be really nice to have a clear-cut answer as to whether these are distinctly younger than the tuffs that we think are below them, or whether they are the same age. Yeah.
Well, according to my GPS, we're still 300 feet east of where the tuff was.
Okay.
Not that John Wett knew where he was that way.
Yeah, that was
Pre-GPS. You know, with a compass, the 24,000 scale map at the time was probably an oscillate copy.
Right.
So they're the preliminary maps.
yeah.
300 meters to the east.
300 feet.
Oh, 300 feet to the east.
Yeah, not very far.
So he would put it at the top of this guy.
Yeah, something like that. But
Okay.
I've got the state's compilation, 24,000 scale with GPS on my phone.
So,
I crushed and pulverized and separated my zircons for detrital sandstones, but it is a learning process and still an ongoing learning process to learn the ID-TIMS techniques, so chemical abrasion and thermal annealing. That is all new.
are you teaching yourself or like?
Oh no, Mike helps.
Okay.
Mike teaches us how to do every step in the process.
It's like apples and oranges between detrital zircon and then these. What you're talking about now is surely pulling out a zircon that hasn't been rolled around or hasn't moved at all,
Yes.
right?
Yes. So
I would just assume it's the same kind of. You're just getting a zircon grain however you can get it, but it's a totally different process in the lab between detrital and what do you call the
igneous
Okay.
zircons.
Yeah.
The process of separating the zircon is the same.
Okay.
And then once you have that zircon separate, that's where the steps start to change. Where in laser ablation, you'll then have those zircons mounted and imaged, and you can have them ablated at lasercon is where we usually do that. And the ID TINS technique, we will then take those zircons and we will thermally anneal them, then do chemical abrasion, and then they're dissolved, and then they're placed on a filament where they can be processed by the mass spectrometer.
Huh.
Just the combination of the university, the other faculty that were there, the cohort of grad students, and the project were really sealed the deal for me. So it was great to work with Mike and Ken Ridgway to define this project and be part of the process. And it was something I was already really excited about, and something I've been excited about since I kind of got into field geology and Alaska and Washington. So it was a good opportunity to dive more into the tectonic side and geochronology side of the research, and integrate that with my knowledge in basin analysis and sedimentology.
Got it. Now, without breaking this open, you wouldn't know if this was one of the tuffs or if this was Arcosic sandstone, just this weathered surface here?
Yeah. Usually you could be confident in a road cut if it was a tuff because it's a fresh surface, but this stuff has been sitting out here probably untouched for quite some time.
Right.
And has a nice varnish on it.
And yet we're confident it's still the Arcosic sandstone. Yeah. So, thank you. So you worked for an oil company for a while between masters and this dissertation?
Yeah, I worked for about three and a half years. And lived down in Houston, and I worked in Gulf of Mexico exploration, and then jumped around a little bit and worked in global new ventures. So very much doing basin analysis work. So understanding the evolution of basins, and in that job, the goal is to kind of map out where your reservoirs and your source and your seal and all of those units are going to be, and whether they were in the right window during that basin's evolution to trap oil. And then you bring that project to management and see if you can pursue more data, or if they want to pursue the project, or you move on to the next one. So
you got plenty of training as a master's student, like you felt like pretty comfortable with some of that field work you were doing for the oil companies?
I didn't get to do any field work.
Oh, I see.
So mostly it was working with data that had either been archived, purchased a long time ago by the company, or you work with other companies and data rooms and see if there's anything worth pursuing there, and just kind of doing a big literature review and learning as much as you could about this basin, and then putting together the story with the information you had, and then bringing that forward to see if it was worth pursuing for any sort of economic reason. I think I've always had a passion for teaching and mentoring, and I love research and doing field work and being able to design projects and work with a big group of people. I just really miss the research aspect of it, and I think I've always wanted a PhD, and I really thought that I would be well suited for a position in a tenure track professor or just something more research oriented. I love being out here doing work and integrating these data sets and just pursuing research, answering really big questions, tectonic questions. So had to go back.
Yeah, pretty much anywhere else, I'd say. Definitely. That was
I mean, I'm ready to jump up and down, but I don't know if I want to jump up and down right here.
jazz and think that we're going to nail it. This is not my first time with this experience.
It's definitely not my first time
Oh
either.
wow, really? I'm surprised.
I had very enthusiastic notes.
I've been up a lot of the canyons off the Chumstick Highway, and then also cut down from, you know, like Clark Canyon or Eagle Creek, and you can take the like Derby Canyon. And
this is where John Wetton mapped thrust of swell-cane gneiss over the Chumstick.
So you flew into Spokane last night?
Yeah, it was so.
Okay.
I didn't look at my itinerary.
I've
I
been
wanted
up
to
on
go to
the north
Spokane
end
because I
of
think
the
it's easier to get in
Anapline
and out of the
and walked
airport.
through,
But I
or
had to
drove
change
through because they have
planes
the
to
canyons
Seattle.
cutting through there. I
could've
don't
been out here
remember
a
all
lot
the names of the
faster.
canyons.
Looked at what the
I'm
layovers
not sure
were.
what it looks like in this compilation.
Well, you can say you flew into Spokane. That's add that to your resume.
Drove up the canyon, you could get right on that other side, the east side of the Eagle Creek Fault, and the rocks are all folded up against it.
Okay.
So.
Well, that makes me think, like, would you really expect to find some good-looking airfall from 45 frickin' million years ago anyway? I mean,
This morning over at Mission Ridge, up East Fork Mission Creek, we found some.
You did?
A rock that had chunks that looked very much like that. They were denser, lithified, but they same color, same sort of angular shape, and same tubular structure. It says anatomical.
huh.
The top of this thing is supposed to be a glass supported conglomerate with tuffaceous matrix. Yeah, so maybe you nailed it, Nick. Actually would not be such a terrible thing to try and separate zircon from. Top was described as class supported conglomerate with tough like matrix. This is starting to look like it.
We definitely just walked across a conglomerate.
Yeah.
All right, did I hear you guys say you're going down and then you come back up over on that ridge over there?
Yep. Yeah.
I'll see you over there.
With
Did you want this?
Sure.
Well, we go trip down there.
Yeah. Thank you.
Extra one would.
Yeah, thank you for playing along.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Fine. It's always fun.
Whew, well, good
All right,
luck.
See you over there.
Hope you find what you're looking for. Okay, well, Ralph and I are staying up here high, and we're going to circle down to the ridge that we came up. But Mike and Erin really want to get down to the base of that section because they think the tuff is better to sample down there. So there is some good volcanic tuff. So they found it. They were happy to find the upper part of the tuff, but apparently it's a little mottled and not the best place to sample. So that's a steep descent, and the over 50 crowd has opted to stay high. So let me just try to quick fill you in. Michael Eddy is the guy that I'm doing the work with in the North Cascades, and that's happening later this month. But this is just a one-day hookup with Mike, who just flew into Washington last night, and Erin Donaghy, his PhD student, who drove out here from Indiana with undergraduate assistant Sam. So I wanted a chance to get Erin on camera. I'm very impressed with her for many reasons, and hope that you will enjoy listening to her with her work. And if you want the full effect, I encourage you to look up Geology 351 classroom lectures that we did this spring on the Chumstick Formation. There's two of them. Chumstick 1 and Chumstick 2, and Erin was the featured geologist. She's done some amazing work with the Chumstick, so this is a chance to meet her and talk to her.
Fun.
Yeah, man.
Well, off-trail adventure.
Totally.